is our overview of the Claude platform, kind of show you step by step all of the things that I think you need to know. So all of the buttons that we have here, so you can click through your chats, it'll show you all of your chat history. You can search through your chats here. But let's start with the actual chat function. So what you're going to see here is a really kind of clean user interface. This will be fairly consistent across all of the major large language models. You're going to see here that you can turn on voice mode if you want to speak to it and have it speak to you. There is this quick little dictate button where if you don't want to type, you can just hold that button and it can record for you. You can choose which device you want to use to record. And here is the model differentiator. The vast majority of you don't need to touch this at all, but just to kind of give you the information, the order here is in the order of a token usage. So the higher up you go, the faster it's going to go through your usage limits, which is especially a problem within the Claude platform. Fable 5 just came out and is included for the next 2 weeks if you want to play with that. But Opus is typically the highest capability platform. The only reason that I use Opus is for the big brainstorming session type things. But other than that, I'm typically only in Sonnet. You can play with the effort level. The higher the effort level and the more often you have thinking on, the more it's going to go through usage limits. I would recommend kind of sticking with the Sonnet, medium, and thinking on for most of what you're doing. And if you ever wanted to use some of the older models, you can choose to do that here as well. Here with the plus button, we can upload files, we can upload photos, we can take a screenshot of something. We'll get to projects in a little bit. You can add skills. Skills are things that you do repeatedly. So here's some examples of the ones that I use. I work in Canvas as my LMS, so I have a QTI quiz generator skill so that every time I am working on a quiz that I want to put in Canvas, I have this workflow where I can just add the skill to the quiz that I'm talking about, and it'll give me the QTI file that I can then import into Canvas. I no longer have to copy and paste questions and answers into a Canvas quiz because I can import it using a QTI file. I have some other things as far as how I like my exams and how I like my PowerPoints. I have all these specific instructions because these are things that I do fairly often. The next kind of button here are the connectors. If you have any of your data in any of these other platforms, or if you use any of these other platforms, like for a few of you, Canva is probably going to be very popular. If you use Slack, Google Drive, Gmail, you might want to connect Claude to those things so that Claude can have access to some of that information. Um, Most of you who have university accounts will probably block the connection so that you don't have any risk of having your university affiliated content synced to a large language model. But again, there is tons and tons of options of things to do here. Really, the only ones that I play with often is the clinicaltrials.gov, the PubMed, and the Gamma connection. And this just allows me to do everything in Claude. I don't have to go back and forth between PubMed and Claude. I don't have to go back and forth between Gamma and Claude. I can do all of my creation, editing, and questioning within the Claude platform. So you can kind of play with connectors however you see fit, connectors, plugins, however you'd like. And then we have these other two buttons here, web search. Do you want it to search the web for whatever you're doing? You're going to make sure this is clicked on. I turned it off and now it's back on. You can see the check mark. And Claude also has a research mode. It has underlying instructions to have it do kind of an academic search. You typically want research and web search on at the same time. And if you want to move to styles, they are slowly phasing out the styles, so that's not going to be relevant for most of us. But that is all of the things within the chat function. So now let's go to projects. Projects is where I recommend um, most of you kind of do your work because it's a lot easier to manage your chats and your files and your memories within this. So here's a great example of my intro to MNT class. This is what kind of a full project looks like. Let me just create a quick one so you can see what the template is. This is what it'll look like from the very beginning. As you start working within the project, it'll start updating memories. You can give specific instructions here. This is just great context for whatever this project is. So let me show you what it looks like in the Intro to MNT course. Just something very brief. This is how I want the AI to interact with me that we're going to develop, and we're going to kind of edit this course for both face-to-face and online formats. Students who take this class are all future healthcare professionals, with half of them being dietitians. You can add really as little or as much context here as you would like. I find it to be fairly helpful. Then on the memory side, as you work within the project, it'll occasionally update memories about the work that you're doing, what skills you have made, what is the current state of the project, etc. And then you can upload files. So here I have my syllabus for the fall, and I have all of my slide decks uploaded. Um, this is just good context for it to have. And then every single chat is within here. If you have a chat that doesn't have a project, you can pull it over, or you can do these three dots and you can change the project that it lives in, or you can add to project. Looks like everything I have is already in a project because that's just kind of how I work. Yeah, looks like everything's already in a project. But here there'd be an add to project button, and you can choose which one it kind of goes into. And this also helps as you add the chats in here, it'll update the memory um, to just help you do the same kind of work that you would do more often. And this is also helpful because as long as you're working within the project, all of the memories of other projects don't bleed into one another. That's one of the big benefits of using the projects function. Um, we talked quite a bit. Oh, well, not quite a bit. We mentioned context window, but as a best practice, every day of class, I have a separate chat for. And that also helps me just kind of keep up with, okay, like where's my obesity content? Where's my first lecture? Where's my nutrition assessment? I have specific chats just for my exam file creation, all of those things. And you can also just edit the names of these things if you wanted to just have better track of your file management systems. And then we'll go to our settings. Here are just some things that you might want to be aware of. Do you want to give it your full name? What should Claude call you? You can give high level instructions for Claude, but I typically just keep these for projects. I don't really do anything in a standalone chat that would require specific instructions outside of what the normal prompt would be. For the vast majority of you probably want to have your model training off. You can even turn your location off if you choose to. Um, and if you ever want to see what kind of data that the platform has on you, you can export your data and you can kind of see what they have. And this little button is kind of specific to Claude. Claude is really strict with its usage limits. So if you're ever curious where you are in your current session, you can see it here. Every session refreshes every 5 hours, and then weekly limits. I use the Pro account. I usually don't hit my weekly limits unless I'm really deep into the creation or recreation of a particular class. And the capabilities, you typically don't need to change anything here, but if you're curious what the total memories look like, you can kind of go through here. Like, what are the big picture memories? And then you can look at the connectors or in the customize button here. So the one other thing that I want to show you is the difference between the web browser portion of Claude and what this is the Mac version of the desktop, where you get access to a function called a Cowork and a Claude Code within the browser. I imagine none of you are going to be playing with Claude Code, but Claude Cowork is something else that you may consider using. Cowork is really beneficial if you're working off of one computer. I don't do a lot of work off of one computer. I really like that I can use the cloud to go back and forth between my projects in the chat function. But here's just an example of a co-work project. Co-work projects can be really, really helpful because essentially you are going to give it a folder on whatever computer you're on. So right now I'm on my laptop, which is why you can see the co-work function, and it'll start creating files. This is much more quote unquote magical because it can actually create, move, delete, and edit files. So a really great example of this is that if I edit a slide deck in a module two and the exam is in module three, it will then also edit the exam files in module three. This cannot be done on the web browser because it's cloud-based versus being local to your computer. Um, it's just something else that you may consider kind of playing with, but I don't want to spend a lot of time here because this kind of gets a little bit more technical. But the other piece that is unique to Cowork is scheduled tasks. So if there's anything that you wanted done kind of repeated throughout the week, then you can do it within scheduled tasks. So what a lot of people do here is that they'll set up, I want a weekly update on PubMed search terms, GLP-1s, and obesity. If you are someone who is maybe not so much in academia, but has your own kind of private practice work, you can actually set this up to connect to your email and have it start drafting emails for you, start searching up what your daily tasks should be. This is kind of what I would consider a next level use, but is not usually helpful for us in academia because our institutional accounts cannot connect to this particular Claude function. But you can play with this as much as you'd like. The last thing I want to show you here is the dispatch function. If you have both the desktop version of Claude and the Claude app, you can actually within the Claude app on your phone, you can kind of text to this dispatch function for it to start doing things while you're not at your computer. The tricky part here is that um, your computer needs to be on, and you can even keep your computer awake. So you'll just need to make sure that your computer is plugged in to whatever it is. But that is our quick overview of the Claude platform. Hope this was helpful.